Hello, everybody. Here's another Sierra chart video. This one's going to be on automating your daily levels. But before we begin, I just wanted to show you this. From the last video, I was talking about the pour high, pour low line that you can activate in your TPO settings. And here is one that showed up on Friday. And this is just an example of why I set it up the way I do, with it showing the pour high at the right edge and then above the line. Because when Monday opens, there's going to be a marker here that says previous high. And then I have a label here for the all-time high. So I have it up here so it's never in the way. So here's a prime example of why I do that the way I do, if that wasn't clear. So automating the levels, there's a couple reasons why you might want to automate your levels. There's reasons that you may not want to automate your levels, or partially automate them, I guess. And some people don't like to automate them because they like to manually move everything around. It helps them see the levels, see where they're at, and that's good. I choose to automate the levels because it saves me a lot of time. And another reason that you may want to partially automate the levels, if you like moving around manually, you may want to consider just automating the current day, because if you do that, the open will automatically show up when the session opens, but also the halfback is live on the chart. So as the day expands, as the profile expands, the halfback moves, and you don't have to keep, manually moving it. So it's always right. And I think that's a huge benefit, because when I was manually doing the levels, I was constantly having to remember to move it, and then it was never in the right spot. So I prefer to have that at a minimum automated. And I guess another reason you may want to automate your levels is if you're really, really OCD, everything lines up perfectly here, which for some people, that's a big deal. So that's another reason you might want to do that. So the way to automate it is you're going to use a whole bunch of studies. And this is actually really not that hard, but you're going to use the daily OHLC study. Let me find it here. It's right there. And that one is going to get you the current day, the previous day, and the T2 day. You can set them all up with this study. So you're going to need a study for each day. So here, and I'll go through all these, but I have the current day study, the previous day study, and the T2 day study. And I have two T2 day studies, and I'll talk about that at the end. But current day, if you go in there in settings, this is what I have for my settings. If you want to pause the video, you can see that. Now on all these things, the chart region is always going to be set to 1. Chart region 1 is your main chart. And then I always label in the short name here, I always label these so I know what they are going forward. So these are my current day levels. And then in the current day levels, I am using the open, and I'm using the high-low average, which is your halfback. And now in the current day levels, I only want them to display like this. I don't want them to display across the whole chart. So this is how I have that set up. Draw style dash, which on a TPO ends up giving you a solid line anyways here. So I set my open at orange. I set all my halfbacks at white. That's just my personal preference. You can set those as you want. And then all these other ones, you can use them if you want. I don't use them, but if you want to, under draw style where it says ignore, that's how you turn them on and off. Change them to ignore if you don't want to see them, or else you can put a line style in there and they'll show up. All right. So then the previous day settings should be the same, except now you're referencing days back 1. So that's all the settings I have for that. And if you want to get into it, look at these inputs, you can hit description. It'll pull up a web browser that goes to Sierra Chart. And then you can go down to inputs, and then this will tell you what every input is if you want to ever mess with a study. That's how you can find out what they all do. And then here I have the previous high, the previous low, the previous close, and the previous 1/2. And going forward, I think with one exception, all of my draw styles are going to be line at last bar, left to right, which if you scroll all the way down, it's right here. Because as far as I've played with it, there is no other way to get a line that goes on entirely across your chart without using this, which is fine by me. So that's the one I use. And that's all those settings. And then your T2 levels, again, daily OHLC, should be all the same, except now you're referencing 2 days back. And again, I'm using the high, low, close, and high, low average, which is your half back for 2 days back. And I have mine color coded. All my T2 days are in red. All my previous days are in green. My overnight stuff is in yellow. Most of the other stuff, the POCs are in purple, values in blue. But obviously you can put those however you want them. All right, so that will get you your current day, previous day, and T2 days. So now to deal with the overnight's a little bit different. The overnight session, you have to use time. You can't just use a day. So if you want it, I put an overnight open line on there. Some people use it, some people don't. But we're going to be using the study horizontal line at time. So that guy right there. And here is the settings I have. And the biggest thing here is your start time. You want this start time to be the start time of when Globex opens for you. And then I'll also put in the stop time I have. I have it stopping a half hour early, and I'll show you why after we go in here. So here I just have it say open, it's orange. And this is the one exception where I am not using the line all the way across the chart. So I'm using just a regular open line like this, but I have it stopping a half hour early based on time. And the reason for that is that if you scroll down here, here's the Globex open line. If you start it and say you stop at a half hour after it opens up, it's going to put this open tag, it's going to put it like right here. So I wanted it to be over here, but if it goes the whole way, it ends up being over here and it kind of interferes with the next day. So the way I found to work around that is I have it a half hour earlier where it stops projecting the line. So it ends up being over here in the volume area. So it's not anywhere even close to this to confuse me that it was a different open or the open for this day, or it's just out of the way this way. And that's how I like it. If you even want this open line on there. So that's how I do it. And again, you can play with the time settings on your own and figure out what works for you. All right, so the next thing is the overnight high and low. So here you want to use high and low for time period extended. And the extended versus this, the extended gives you more inputs. So if you go in here, here's what I have for settings here. And again, this is going to be based on your time zone. And I'm simply using high and low. I think those are your only two options anyways. And again, I have those in yellow. And then this setting right here, Friday evening extends into Sunday. If you have that checked to yes, if you make an overnight high or an overnight low, say the market opens up and it falls apart, or it just, it just rips up, and your high or your low is made on Sunday, when the clock turns to Monday, all of a sudden this line disappears. So I found that you have to have this click to know. That way on Sunday night, if it makes an overnight high or low, which chances are it does, then this line will disappear unless you have this set to no, because it thinks Friday extends into Sunday. It's thinking that's still the weekend, so it gets rid of your line. So important that that one is set on no. All right, and then the last study for the overnight is study subgraphs average. So let's go down here. Which would be right here. So you'd add that. And then this is simply a study where you're taking this study, so it will be study 13 for me, your overnight high-low study, and then you grab overnight high as one reference, overnight high-low, and then your overnight low as the other reference, and then that averages them into this line. So you can set that for your overnight half, choose your color, draw it how you want it. Those are my settings. So this is a study that averages a study. This is really all it is. So again, you're taking your overnight high-low study, specifically the high, your overnight high-low study, specifically the low. It averages them out, gives you your half line, which you can then put on here. And then the last lines would be this value area high, the volume point of control, the time point of control, and this value area low line. And I tried without end to get the studies on this chart from this chart, because there's value line studies. And I was told for whatever reason, they coded the TPO charts differently where they will not show up right. And I tried every setting. I tried for days to get them to work, and they would not work. But there is a way to get them to work, and this is what you have to do to get those 4 lines to work. You have to generate and this goes back from my previous video, you have to generate another chart and you have to overlay the studies. So you want to just generate a 30-minute, I don't even think it has to be 30 minutes, but I generated just a 30-minute bar chart. And that's all this is for, is to render your studies, and then we're going to overlay them. So if you go up to studies here, once you generate a chart, doesn't have to be candlesticks. It doesn't matter what it is. It just has to be a regular chart. And like I said, the only thing I'm using this for is to generate studies. So you're going to graph the volume area lines and this TPO value area lines. So in the volume area lines, which would be this one, you'd add that. And this is the settings. And then in this study, I'm getting my value area low, my value area high, and my volume point of control. So set these lines the way that you want them. So then here, this is the volume area lines from that previous chart. So in order to do that, as I covered in that last video, you have to use study price overlay. So it's right here. So you would add that. And like I said, I labeled these value lines. Here's my settings. So it's study to overlay. I'm in here. So this is chart number 2, which is this guy right here, which is the chart that I generated specifically for this purpose. And the study to overlay is the volume value area lines. These are all my settings. And in this particular case, yeah, I used the info from the source study for the subgraphs. So the way that I set them up in this study is the way they're going to display on this chart. And you can turn this off if you want. If you want to define your own subgraphs, you would turn this to no, this to no, and this to no. And that was covered in the previous video. So if you want to customize it different from the other chart, if you use maybe the other chart for something else, I mean, that's up to you. But that's a nice thing about Sierra, is that the stuff's all customizable. But that's just how I did it on this one. I think I just used the settings exactly as I had them set up on this chart. So that gives you everything except for this time point of control. So if we go in here, and now we're using TPO value area lines. So this study right here, go into settings. Here's the settings that I'm using. And I'm specifically only using this time point of control. These other two I had set on ignore. All right. So then up here, again, this is study price overlay. So you can just duplicate this one if you wanted to, or go over here. Grab it again, hit add. And again, study to overlay. I'm using this chart number 2, which is right here. And I'm using my time point of control line study. Here's all my other settings. And once again, this is only to generate the time point of control. So that is all the main levels, and then you can use that overlay study to overlay other lines that you would like. Like I'm playing with a VWAP line. I've had these Bollinger Bands on here, which have been very responsive. So I'm very happy that I was able to generate them on this chart. I have a couple moving averages. So you can put all those on there with that study price overlay setting. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was why I have 2 T2 days in here. And for whatever reason, there is a bug currently, which is, I guess it's been fixed in the pre-release and it's supposed to be fixed in the new release that comes out. But for whatever reason, they seem to be counting Saturday as a day. So what'll happen on Monday is you come load up your charts and all of a sudden you have previous day, and then written right over it is your T+2 high. So the previous high and T2 high, all the levels for the previous day are overwritten by the T2. So it's putting them both on the same point. So the quick workaround I did was I just duplicated this study. I went in here and I made this T+2 levels for Monday, and I had to put them to 4 days back. And then that counts the weekend days and then adds the day to put the T2 levels on the day that they're supposed to be on. So all I do is on Monday, I come in here, I hide the regular T2 days, I unhide the one for Monday, hit OK, it's all good. And then when Monday is over, I go hide these Monday ones and then unclick the regular ones. And then it's good for the rest of the week. But like I said, it's a known bug. They know about it. Supposedly it's been fixed. So by the time you view this video, it may or may not be an issue. But if it is, that's a quick workaround that literally requires you to click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times and you're done. So I hope this video, I know it's probably kind of long and it's going to require a lot of starting and stopping it to see, see the settings and everything. But once you get this set up, I mean, it's really nice. It's really nice. It's really clean. Your levels are never wrong. I mean, if you're really OCD, you got stuff like this where the 1/2 is between 2 levels, and that's because there's an even number of TPOs. So obviously it doesn't have the odd one to tag it on. But I mean, other than stuff like that, and I mean, that's really nitpicking. This is a really good thing. I like it. So I hope this helps you, and leave me some feedback. Thanks.